Hello students. So in our previous lectures regarding chapter 2 we were studying about different separation methods for different compounds, like we have separated dye from ink by just the process of evaporation. We have separated cream from milk by a process centrifugation. We have separated two immiscible liquids like oil with water. These are two immiscible liquids. We have separated them with the process of separating funnel. With the use of separating funnel we have separated them, and also we have separated salts from camphor by the process of sublimation. We have also seen another process for the separation of black ink into its different colors by the process of chromatography, and we have seen this process with its applications also in our last lecture. So today we will study that how can you separate a mixture of two miscible liquids. Miscible liquids means which can dissolve with each other, like alcohol in water or soda in water. These are two miscible liquids. So how can we separate this? It is demonstrated by an activity 2.8, in which we will separate acetone from water. Acetone generally present in nail polishes or nail removers, which we will separate it from water because these acetone and water are miscible liquids. They will dissolve with each other. Here what we do, we will take a distillation flask. This is called as distillation flask. We will also need a thermometer. This figure is given in your textbook in activity 2.8. So here this is distillation flask in which our mixture of acetone and water is present. Here we will attach a cork so that vapors cannot go outside, in which a thermometer will also be put. This is thermometer, and here there is a burner. So this is the setup for separation of two miscible liquids through the process of distillation. The process is called as distillation. Now what we'll do, we have acetone with water, and from the chapter 1 we know that if there are two liquids, they will have some kind of boiling point at which they will convert to vapors. So here the boiling point of acetone will be lower than that of water. The boiling point of water will be higher. So once you start to heat this solution or mixture of two liquids, the acetone will convert to gas at a lower temperature. You know the boiling point of acetone if you are doing this activity. So here thermometer is kept. When the boiling point reaches of acetone, you stabilize the heat flow. So acetone present in this distillation flask will convert to vapors, and water will remain here also because its boiling point is higher and you are not giving that much of heat. So these vapors of acetone will go to here. We have put a cork here, so it will transfer here. Now this is a condenser, water condenser it is, in which cold water is running. Cold water is going in here and out from here. Water inlet, water outlet. So cold water is running from this water condenser. It will again, when this vapors of acetone pass through this cold water condenser, it will again convert it to its liquid form and it will get here. So here you got pure acetone. So by this process you can separate two miscible liquids. This process is called as distillation. Now on which principle this process works? It works on the boiling point of the two solutions. If the boiling point of two solutions are having higher variation, this simple distillation can be done because the change is very high between the boiling points of two. Here acetone and water, they have very large variation between their boiling point. But if two solutions which are having a difference of boiling point less than 25 Kelvin, if they are having difference of boiling point less than 25 Kelvin, then you have to add one more apparatus in this system, which is known as fractionating column, and the process will now called as fractional distillation. Now will be called as fractional distillation, in which the whole setup is like this only, but only one part you have to add between this distillation flask and this condenser. You have to add one more like this. If this is the distillation flask, the cork is added like that. You have to add this fractionating column. Now what is the structure of fractionating column, or what is its function? From here the condenser will go like this. This is the water condenser, this is distillation flask, this is our fractionating column in which glass beads are present. These are glass beads. They will increase surface area. For the vapors coming out of this distillation flask to cool down, they will give more surface area for the vapors. So it will differentiate the vapors. So it is called as fractionating column. Now another separation of different gases from the air. We know that in air total 78% of nitrogen is present, 21% of oxygen is present, and rest of 1% contains CO2, argon, etc. in small amounts. So how can you differentiate, or how can you separate these gases from air? So it is done by a long process. The system is given in your textbook in figure 2.12. So the process is simple, but apparatus are larger and many. So what is the process here? It is also done by fractional distillation, like that of two miscible liquids having very low difference between their boiling points. So here what we'll do, air is present. The air will pass from a system where it will get compressed. Compressed means it will get pressurized. So what we'll do, this pressure will heat the gas. Now we also decrease temperature, then so it will cool the air and it will convert it into liquid air. So now our air is converted to liquid air. Now what will happen? Now you allow this liquid air to warm up slowly in fractional distillation column, like that of containing glass beads in them. So once they are being warm up, they will get separated at different heights. You will understood this by the diagram. This is the setup given in your textbook. From here on, air will come. This is the normal filter to separate the dust particles from the air. Here this pressure giving system is present, which will air under pressure, so the air will get warm. So hot air is passing now, because here we have given them the pressure. Now this is the again water condenser, from which freezing cold water will go in. Freezing cold water from this tube condenser, and it is getting out. So here the air which is coming here will get cold and compressed, because here it is compressed. So cold compressed air is coming out. Now we know that carbon dioxide having very low boiling point, so it will get, once it is getting cold, it will get easily converted to dry ice, which is its solidified form. So here first CO2 will come out as dry ice. Now again this cold air is passing through. Now this is the expansion jet. What will expansion jet do? It will expand, it will pressurize this air, so the air will get expanded. So nitrogen will go very high because it is present in large amount. So first funnel will get nitrogen out, second funnel will get argon out, and we will get pure liquid oxygen in this tank. So by this process you can get CO2, pure CO2 is dry ice, oxygen as liquid oxygen, and nitrogen, argon as gases. So this is the separation of components of air. This filtration process is, or this fractional distillation, this is the fractional distillation column. It is also used in petroleum, or where you get this petrol, diesel from a common ore. You have seen this diagram maybe. This is large fractionating distillation column, from which different outlets are present. From one you can get iron, from one you can get coal, from one petrol, from one diesel, all from this common ore. So this same process is distinguished here for the separation of gases. Now next topic is how can you obtain pure copper sulfate from impure sample. If you take up the impure sample of copper sulfate which will have impurities like salts, so how can you get this pure copper sulfate? So this is also done or illustrated by an activity 2.9 in your textbook. Now here what you have to do, you take 5 gram of this impure sample which is having copper sulfate with impurities like salts. Now you dissolve it in minimum amount of water to get a saturated solution. Now what is saturated solution? You know that no more solutes can be dissolved in, but if you want to dissolve it in minimum water, then again you have to evaporate some part of water to get this saturated solution. Once you get a saturated solution, you cover this saturated solution present in a beaker with a filter paper. Once you covered this by a filter paper, you leave it undisturbed for a whole day, for 1 day. Next day you come, you will see these crystals of copper sulfate. So this process is called as crystallization. It is not same as evaporation. If you do evaporation with sugar, the sugar will get burnt because sugar is having very low melting point, so it will get half burned. So you cannot do evaporation to get solids or pure form of solids from a given impure sample. So crystallization is the process used to separate solid or pure solid from impure samples. Now what are its applications of this crystallization process? So it is generally used in purification of salt from sea water, which you have maybe seen in our Kumbharwada regions. It is also used in separation of crystals of alum or fitkari from impure samples. So in common it is generally used to separate pure crystals or pure solids from impure samples. Now there is a figure given in your textbook, figure 2.13, which shows the purification of drinking water which you get at your home in cities. So it is the do by yourself kind of thing. It is generally simple, so you will read it and you will do it yourself. Now we are done with the separation processes. This much of separations you have to study. Now our next topic is physical and chemical changes. Physical and chemical changes. So in the chapter first we have seen these physical properties of matter which can be observed and specified. Physical properties of matter or physical changes in matter which can be observed and specified, like color. You can observe color, specify color. hardness, rigidity. These all terms now you are aware of. Fluidity, also density, melting point and boiling points. So these were all physical changes, because in these processes the composition doesn't change, or if water is get converted from liquid to gas, it will remain H2O only. So chemical change is not seen in these physical changes. So what are these chemical changes? So we will study about these chemical changes in our next lecture. Thank you, students.